Hey, this is Steve Bloom, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Today on Weekend at the Movies, we give you our thumbs up or thumbs down at this week's movie headlines. We try to figure out what the heck Disney is thinking, and then we give you our second of our half-decade countdowns. All that and more coming up on Weekend at the Movies. That's right, it's another episode of Weekend at the Movies. I am one of your hosts, Optimus Solo. I am joined once again by Movie Revolt Dan. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. And we have a very special guest along for the ride, just like we did with our other countdown when we brought over Hyro from the True Bromance podcast to talk about science fiction and fantasy. And here to talk comic book films with us this week is none other than DJ from the Simplistic Reviews. Hello, DJ.
Dimwit, thousandaire, homeboy, hyperbolist. I'm here. Lend my voice.
I hope somebody gets that out there.
That's just a little clue to what may be on my list.
Excellent. So, Dan, how's your week been going?
It's going well. Enjoying the fact that spring is here, and it's like that weird time of year though, where it's like wearing a jacket in the morning and like a t-shirt in the afternoon. But
right.
It's going well. I'm excited. I'm going on vacation soon, so just getting that all prepared. It's like
It's vacation season for us.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
You're going the 1 week, and I'm going the week after that.
Yeah.
So should be interesting for some records here for the month of April. DJ, what about you? How's your week going?
I live in Miami.
That's where we're all coming, so.
Come on down. I'm like Fantasy Island guy. Welcome to Miami. Everything's fine. I'm preparing myself tomorrow, or 2 days from now, I'm going to watch Furious 7, so I'm taking the required pills to dumb down my brain.
That's definitely necessary. I'd speak out of turn. I shouldn't talk. I've not seen it. 5 of them or 6 of them. So.
You've seen it. Even though you haven't seen it, you've seen it.
Yeah.
Everyone tells me, though, it's a different franchise after, what, Dan, after the first 4?
Yeah, after 4, yeah.
Yeah, after 5, it becomes just like a heist ridiculousness, and it's just like, it's just random plot to make huge action sequence, that's not just a race.
Video game movie at this point.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
I was trying to get DJ. I was trying to talk him into about a month ago to head up to Tampa when I'm in Florida, because I'm actually probably going to be hooking up and meeting with Hyro. We're going to go out for some drinks when I'm down in Florida. So I was trying to make it like a cross podcast, like
a meeting, a freaking Avengers. You want to make an Avengers circle shot?
But I do realize driving through the entire state of Florida takes some time. So
I mean, if
coming from
if I can get Stuart to come with me, maybe I'll swing on through.
I once I don't remember what it was, but for one, I think we were going on a cruise or something. I don't know, something we had to drive from where I live in Illinois, which is about an hour away from Chicago, down to Miami to catch a plane to, I think, go on the cruise or whatever. And that trip basically consists of driving through the state of Illinois and then driving through the state of Florida. Like, there's not much in between. And
people underestimate that drive. It's 7 hours if you're hauling behind to get through Florida. And it's just it's not even hills. It's just flat, straight line, nothingness. So,
but I'm definitely looking forward to getting into that state, though, and out of Illinois for a little bit. The weather has done a number on us recently. As for my week, a couple things that I guess I should mention since we're part of a Geekcast Radio Network, and it's definitely something geeky here. I just discovered that the BotCon this year, which is something I've never been to or even had an option to go to, because it's always in seems like it's always in some state that's at least 6 states away from me. But 2015 BotCon is actually going to be held in St. Charles, which is a suburb of Chicago, which is literally an hour drive from me. And making his first ever appearance at this BotCon, he's never done it before, is the one and only Frank Welker.
Oh, God, you must go.
So,
Dr. Claw, Megatron, yes, must go.
Yeah. So I immediately texted one of my friends that's also a fellow Transformer fan, and we've decided that we're going. Number one, we don't have to buy a hotel, or well, not buy a hotel. We don't have to also rent a hotel. We can just drive there and hang out. So we're waiting for tickets to go on sale to see how much we have to pay to do this. But I'm excited because that's going to be my first ever convention experience ever, I believe. I may have been to some type of like minor league Star Wars convention one time, but I don't think it was a...
You were at somebody's house and he had like Star Wars on.
Right. But other than that, my week's been going fine, except for today was absolutely insane at work. It was about twice as busy as it usually is, and then I had one of my employees who was coming back to the workplace, and a van ran a yellow light and hit their back tire, spun them, and flipped their car upside down. And she crawled out of the window as it was upside down, but she was fine. But the driver that hit her did not even ask if she was okay. Oh. So
is she unbreakable? How'd she survive that?
I don't know. People started like, because it's kind of it was in the entrance to kind of like a strip mall / big old thing. Like, I mean, there's a Starbucks, there's all kinds of different stuff there, and like people started coming from everywhere and were like going up to her and being like, "You're blessed," and all kinds of different stuff, and trying to touch her and stuff. I don't know. It was creepy.
Did the glass like form a shape of Jesus or something, or is that?
I don't know. It was kind of, I don't know. It was kind of an interesting experience because there was like a beer bottle that was on the ground that was there beforehand, but it ended up being real close to her car. So there was like, we were worried that the cops were going to think that she had it in the car and all this other stuff. I don't know. It made for an interesting day. Is there a
blonde guy with a tan trench coat smoking cigarettes anywhere nearby? Was John a guy named Constantine roaming around? Is there anything like that?
I didn't do a good enough 360 perusal of the bystanders. There probably was. But other than that, I guess my week was pretty much normal. So as we do each week, we will take a quick look at the box office and see what happened last weekend and see what's about to happen this weekend. So last weekend, I don't think we had... I don't know if there wasn't really that big of a surprise as to who was number one. Maybe a big surprise as to how much it did, Dan. And that would be number one, Home, the animated film, which brought in $52 million.
Yeah, I had no idea it'd do that well. So I felt like it's one of those movies that was just going to get buried. But I guess, I don't know, animated films just tend to do well, I guess, you know. Parents are like, I need this kid to not talk for 2 hours. Go to the movies.
Hate my children. I really, really hate my children.
Well, I was wondering, too, because there wasn't really that much animated-wise out there. I mean, we'd have, like, SpongeBob early on in the year, and we had Paddington, which isn't animated, but another kids-type film. So there wasn't a ton for kids to watch in the last month, so maybe it was just, like, the right timing for that. My girlfriend actually went and saw it and thought it was really good. I missed it, so it was one of those that she got to see that I didn't, but she had some nice things to say about it, so I don't know. Maybe I'll have to catch it once it's available on DVD or Redbox format.
It has Jim Parsons in it. I'm allergic to Jim Parsons.
But he's going to be the Riddler soon, so you know.
Don't wish it into existence, Clark. What's wrong with you?
Brought that up. We actually had a week where both number one and number two were new movies. So Get Hard comes in at number two with $33 million. So that's almost its budget in a single weekend. That's the fun thing about doing comedies. Divergent series Insurgent comes in at number 3 with $21 million added to its gross. Cinderella drops from number 2 to number 4, and It Follows goes from number 19 last week to number 5.
That's the most talked about movie of the last couple of weeks is this movie.
Yeah,
cult film.
Word of mouth fueling the $4 million that it made here over the last weekend. So definitely interesting there. And for those of you that are keeping track, Focus has passed its budget.
Oh, thank God. I didn't know if I told you guys. I'm Will Smith's agent, so I got to make sure it's numbers.
So
okay, thank you.
Just crept past its budget there. But Dan, anything that you're seeing in the box office of note or surprises or anything like that?
No, not really. I'm assuming that It Follows is going to be one of those that stays there for quite a while because I think that's only gonna spread word of mouth wise because it just opened wide last weekend. Great buzz. I have yet to see it, unfortunately, but I know TJ, you did get to see it, so. Looking forward to it, hopefully, but I think we all know next weekend, Fast and the Furious is probably gonna do pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what kind of opening weekend Fast has, if it's going to be the best opening weekend so far of 2015 or not. And since we haven't done it in a little bit, looking at the yearly total so far, we still have 50 Shades of Grey at the number 1 spot with 165 mil. Right behind it, SpongeBob at 160. That's a surprise I don't think anybody predicted. Cinderella is sitting right now in number 3 for the year at 154, and Kingsman is in the 4th spot with 120. Those are the only 4 films so far to pass the 100 million mark. So we'll have to see how long it takes Fast 7.
Kingsman. Good for Kingsman.
Yeah, definitely good for Kingsman. So I believe we don't really need to ask the question as to what's going to be number 1 next weekend. We kind of all know that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't have friends. I've got family.
Personally, I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
I live my life a half a gallon or a stick shift or whatever it is at a time.
I'm just waiting to see what kind of Oscar caliber performances we get out of this film that we'll be seeing next year at the Academy Awards season.
Ronda Rousey. Are we talking double wins? Are we going to go for the 2? Are we going to go for the Dallas Buyers Club? Are we going to get like the Paul Vin Diesel thing going?
No, I'm thinking like it happened one night where you have Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writer, actor. Yeah. How many? Can Tyrese be nominated multiple times for the same role? I mean,
when he does the high-pitched voice, that's like a different character, so he could actually be nominated twice.
And I thought the Academy might just invent a new category for the film altogether and just do something like, Best Action Sequence or something, just so they can add another
sequence. Because you're going to have The Rock fighting Vin Diesel probably, or Statham. It's going to be best like flex off. I mean, he flexes off a cast. So I mean,
best neck flexing.
Oh man! But obviously we have a big main attraction this week, guys, with the top 10 comic book films. So we're not going to do news like we have been, where we each kind of bring our own news and really delve into them a little bit. We're just going to kind of do some quick hits here. I'm just going to ask the guys thumbs up or thumbs down on a few headlines that we got over the last week, and we're going to start with Tom Hardy signing on for 3 more Mad Max films. Dan, is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
That's a thumbs up for sure. I mean, assuming the first one, the one that's coming out is going to be good, but it looks awesome, so I'm going thumbs up.
Is it just a thing of recent times? Is it just like me? I don't know if I have like some type of revisionist mind or something, but I feel like just in the last 5 to 10 years, we always get the studios that are signing on multiple sequels before the first film actually ever airs.
Exactly.
Fantastic Four already has a sequel greenlit, and it's not even out yet, so yeah.
So, man, I really hope that does good. DJ, what about you? Thumbs up or thumbs down on Tom Hardy?
I'm sucking my thumb. That's awesome. I mean, I don't know if you saw that trailer. My eye, I have like a blind eye because of the explosions. It's literally a Michael Bay fever dream, that trailer. So if George Miller and Tom Hardy want to make 17 of those movies, why do we have 7 Fast Furious movies? I want 7 Mad Max movies that look like that. I'll be happy all day.
All right, second headline here. Deadpool obtaining the R rating. Dan, thumbs up or down?
Thumbs up for sure. I think that character needs an R rating, and you gotta redeem it from the awfulness that was Wolverine Origin. So
never happened.
True that.
True.
DJ, you agree or not?
Thumbs up. I think they could have done it PG-13. I did not want them to, but Deadpool. Just that little April Fool's gag is essentially a microcosm of what. If you want to explain who Deadpool is to somebody who doesn't know, that is Deadpool. Ferris Bueller with a machine gun, I like to call him.
That's a good description there. I'm doing the thing that I sometimes do when I'm trying to lead things and I'm forgetting to actually cast my votes, but it would be a thumbs up on both things so far.
Thumbs down on Mad Max.
Thumbs up on both of those. Echo from Lost. I'm calling him Echo from Lost because I can't say his name.
Come on, you can't say his name? Go ahead, give it a try. Go ahead.
I'm not even looking at the spelling of it right now.
It's all vowels. Go ahead.
being cast as Killer Croc. DJ, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm gonna say, can I do half thumb? Can I do like half Commodus where he's deciding
thumb
to kill
sideways?
Because I don't want. I know Suicide Squad's an ensemble. I just don't want them to pull a Batman v Superman overload. Guy as Killer Croc, perfect. Just don't overload the movie with garbage.
Gotcha. Dan, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down or thumbs sideways?
I feel like I'm more like an absentee vote in this one because I don't know. I never really watched Lost, so yeah, I think
it was created. Oh, I can't say that because that has
Oz. Have you seen G.I. Joe the first one?
Oh yeah.
In the Dark World.
I don't know. I'm going with. I don't know. Thumbs down. I just don't know if Killer Croc. I'm not sure about in that movie. I just we'll see. I just don't trust DC at that point to pull off a character like that if it's going to exist in the same universe as Man of Steel. I will see, though. I don't know.
I'm thumbs up for the actor and probably thumbs down for the character. So I'll have to wait and see. I'm not a huge Killer Croc fan. All right, next one here. Adam West and Burt Ward doing a 50th anniversary animated Batman film, providing the voices for the characters there as a kind of a 50th anniversary special, doing at least one film, possibly two. DJ, thumbs up or thumbs down on that?
Why the hell not? Thumbs up. It's Adam West. It's Burt Ward. I mean, it's Batman. Yes, thumbs up.
All right. Dan, will their voices even sound like those characters?
I mean, Adam West still sounds like Adam West on Family Guy.
That's
so
true.
You know,
that's true.
I'll go thumbs up. Yeah, why not? I mean, I'd like to see the goofy Batman come back, and the Batman 66 comic's been pretty fun. So I'll go thumbs up.
I'll go thumbs up just for the fact that if it's a possibility that somehow on the 50th anniversary that's something that can happen, why not do it? Like that's not usually a option doesn't usually present itself. Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, one more time. DJ, thumbs up or thumbs down?
God, poor Fox. First Marvel decided to kill off every X-Men character in their books. And now their only mainstay, all their mainstays are leaving. Jennifer Lawrence is leaving. Hugh Jackman's giving them the adamantium middle finger now. I guess thumbs down because I want Hugh Jackman to play Wolverine forever. He's like top 3 best casting of all time for a comic book character. So
that's probably true.
Thumbs down, sadly. I want him to... Somebody kidnap his family. Make him do this movie forever.
Nice. Dan, what do you think?
You know what? I'll actually say thumbs up because maybe it's time for the X-Men franchise to focus on other characters, maybe, possibly.
No, I'm so sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe thumbs up because maybe he's getting out at the right time. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I don't know what the X-Men universe is going to do here. I understand what they're trying to do. I don't know how it's going to work and how it's all going to play out. I'm for change and I'm for the young bloods and whatnot. But man, it's hard to think of the X-Men without thinking of Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. So
I can see what's going to happen if Fantastic Four is successful. You're going to get your crossover because they're losing so many big guys. They're just going to use the cinematic universe parachute and say, "Oh, we have a Fantastic Four X-Men movie," and that's how they'll avoid it.
Can we go back to the statement "if" and capitalize both the I and the F?
Oh no, trust me. If anybody's the most doubtful about Fantastic Four, it's DJ Valentine. So I'm with you.
All right.
If they can keep McAvoy and Fassbender, and they lose Jackman, I think they'll be fine. But
lose Fassbender soon, man. How long do you think they're going to keep Fassbender with the Academy Award nominated?
I know. I would say they would have naked photos of him, but we saw Shame, so it's not like they can hide the.
I got nothing to blackmail
him with. Dick pics everywhere. I got films about dick pics. Come on,
exactly. I don't know, and now, so maybe it's going to be tough, but we'll see.
We'll see. I figured out that apparently I have stopped referring to people by their names and only by the characters that they play. So we'll just say the guy that plays Arrow being cast as Casey Jones.
Stephen Amell.
Yes, him being cast as Casey Jones. Dan, thumbs up or thumbs down for the next Turtles film? First of all, don't judge it on the...
I was going to say, they could have cast, freaking Marlon Brando and it'd be something.
Thumbs down at the thought of another Turtles film, but if they have to do another Turtles film, is him being cast as Casey Jones or Casey Jones being involved in the movie, would that be a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I like Stephen Amell. I think he's great as Arrow, but I got to go thumbs down because I think Casey Jones has more of a comedic side. He's more fun-loving, and I don't think I've ever seen Stephen Amell smile or laugh, so I just don't know if he would fit the character. He might be a little too serious, but I don't know. Maybe they're going a different direction because that entire franchise is going a different direction, which is bad.
The direction is bad. It's not north or south. It's bad. DJ, what do you think?
I mean, Amell did kind of do some kind of humorous stuff on Hung, old HBO series. But again, I agree with you. He's great as Arrow. I don't see him as the Brooklyn wisecracking Googala guy. I don't see that. He's an Abercrombie and Fitch guy. I need like a gruff looking dude. But first off, what can he do to hurt that franchise? I mean, he can have literally one eye in his head. I'm like, yeah, sure. Why the hell not? I mean, we're coming off of Will Arnett and Megan Fox. Anything is a step up. So I'll thumb sideways.
And Whoopi. Don't forget Whoopi.
Oh, God. I forgot that.
It's an ironic name.
Oh, man.
All right, I'm going to give a thumbs up for the idea of Casey Jones being involved, but thumbs down for there being another Turtles film in the same realm of what that first one was. There's an article this week from Mr. Gunn here from Guardians of the Galaxy, and that article is revealing that they're giving him free realm on Guardians of the Galaxy 2 to create a unique story of his own, not based on any of the comics or anything else, but kind of free reins to create something unique of his own and to go all out and all in on Guardians 2. Good idea, bad idea, thumbs up or thumbs down, DJ?
Thumbs up because we kind of already knew this. He already said from the first one that Peter Quill's dad's not going to be his dad, and the guy has nothing but gravy at this point. He made a blockbuster out of a movie that Marvel didn't even think it was going to be the case. Let Gunn do whatever he wants, and don't worry, people, comic book fans. It's okay. Him doing his own thing doesn't mean that he doesn't know anything about comics. Gunn knows that book backwards and forwards. He's probably just going to move some stuff around because he likes other characters like Rom or Adam Warlock. You'll be fine. Some thumbs up.
All right. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I go thumbs up. I like some of the little adjustments that they made for Guardians of the Galaxy with like Drax and him taking everything literally and stuff like that. So, and like DJ mentioned, just because you're changing things doesn't mean he's gonna adjust it that much. And the Guardians of the Galaxy within itself is it's not like it has this huge like foundation that you're gonna really screw with, because it's always been a book in flux and in a good way, but characters kind of come and go and whatnot, but I'm fine with it. I mean, I love to see more of the cosmic universe, and the idea that he's going to just be able to play with all these cool toys and do what he wants to, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a trifecta here and give it a thumbs up as well, because anytime a director doesn't have his hands tied by anything or, is having free creative control, I'm for that usually 100%. So, thumbs up on that one. Last one for our news segment today. I talked about Disney and talking about what they're thinking. We've gotten a bunch of different articles over the last couple of weeks. We already talked about the possibility of a Tim Burton live-action Dumbo. Now this week we have an article talking about a live-action Mulan, and then just recently an article about a live-action Winnie the Pooh. Okay, I understand we had Maleficent, and that kind of got mixed reviews, and then I understand we had Cinderella this year, which got rave reviews and did very well. Dan, the direction that Disney is going, releasing stories about one live-action film after the other, the whole direction that they're going, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs down. Unless they do the Bambi live-action that Rock did on SNL a few weeks ago.
Best one ever.
I just live-action Winnie the Pooh sounds like an SNL skit. That just sounds awful.
Why are they choosing the films that would be the most... like the last choice that somebody would want to see a live action? Like, who wants to see a live action Dumbo?
And all those characters are going to be CG anyway, so I don't even get the point of doing it live action. It's not like you're going to get a real. I don't.
I get Cinderella. I get like the Beauty and the Beast. Like I get some of those, but Dumbo and Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, it doesn't make, unless you get like people in suits and make it some like freaky movie or something like some like furry craziness. I don't know what else.
Going down a whole different angle now.
Oh, easy.
That's not something that can be seen in theater. I was hoping some of these were April Fool's jokes, because I don't know. I think they're just... That
sounds like I think it's an awful idea. No, not to that. I get Cinderella. I get like when it's like a fairy tale with people, because it's, you can do that, but like I said, it's going to be all CGI characters anyways. Why do it live action? It doesn't make any sense to me.
DJ, I know you have a close connection to...
Mouse, personally.
Yeah.
I got him on the bat line. The thing about Maleficent, it has mixed reviews, but again, Maleficent made and this is not a typo, my friends,
Right.
$748 million.
Angelina Jolie's got it with the other countries.
I mean, the movie made, and that movie wasn't good. Okay, Cinderella was better than Maleficent in my opinion, and it's a weaker story. So, of the movies that they're making live action, like Dan was saying, Mulan to me, who is my favorite Disney princess because she actually does stuff and she's a tremendous role model for young girls out there who she fights wars. You can see that as a film. You can imagine Ang Lee did a Mulan movie. Holy crap, that's like $100 million opening weekend. But Dumbo, first off, I don't like Dumbo the cartoon, let alone Dumbo the Tim Burton acid trip. I don't want to see Winnie the Pooh live action because guess what? It's gonna, like Dan's saying, it's gonna be CG. I want to see a different version of a cartoon. It's like I'm good. If you're doing the live action like the Sleeping Beauty stuff, I'm with Dan. You can do it. That's fine. Mulan, I think, would make a great film. I was happy when I heard that, and then I was like, oh no. They're just opening up the vault. But again, there is nothing to stop him because it's making money. We're the audience. We're voting with our dollars. And because we gave Maleficent $748 million, he's not going to stop. He's not going to stop until he has all of our money. All of it.
See, I'd put some money down and go see a live action Mulan,
yes, I'd watch the hell
even live action, like even something like Beauty and the Beast. I'd give it a shot unless it looks like the '90s TV show or something. But I can't even picture myself paying for like a $5 ticket to go see a live action Dumbo by Tim Burton.
See, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get the Aladdin thing. You're going to get Hunchback.
Live action Lion King coming up and Aristocats.
Lion King is in that Back to the Future territory. Leave Lion King the F alone. Don't look, Mouse. I'm going to talk to him. There's certain ones you can touch. You can do a live action Mulan. You can do even a live action Aladdin. If you touch Lion King, holy crap, that's like sacrilege.
I mean, well, the Broadway show, but, I don't know if, like...
But that's fine. It's not in the theater. It's like taking the Mona Lisa and saying, hey, let's make make a video game out of it. No. Leave it alone. Leave it right where it is in the Louvre. We're fine.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. And then real quick, just to touch on some trailers, not just some trailers that came out, but we also had trailer news this week, and that would be twofold here. Number one, that we were possibly getting the Batman versus Superman trailer at the Mad Max screenings, and also possibly getting Star Wars trailers at the Avengers screenings. So the chess match continues.
It makes me laugh so much.
Well, now Avengers is going to make money. Oh, wait, sorry.
Well, you know what's funny? I think this affects the Avengers one more than it affects the Mad Max one. Well, it kind of affects them both. But Avengers was going to, I think, not take a serious hit, but it was going to get a little bit of a hit from the Floyd Mayweather fight. So this kind of it kind of equals it out because now people are going to want to go see that because the Mayweather fight, I think, comes out that weekend. Happens that weekend. So they were going to lose some of that nighttime viewership. So
the thing that they're avoiding here is I remember one year where they did something like, I don't remember if it was one of the Star Wars films or not, but they had the first trailer show it some movie that was not the Avengers, and people basically came, watched the trailer, and walked out.
I think it was it Dark Knight? No, excuse me, Batman Begins. Batman Begins was on one of the Mission Impossibles, I think.
I just remember hearing something about like a massive amount of people that went, saw a trailer, and walked out. And I'm like, that's terrible. But other trailers that actually did hit this week that you can go to the website, geekcastradio.com, find the episode post, and click on and give you our thoughts. The Gift, Straight Outta Compton, The D-Train from Jack Black, Masterminds, a movie called Kung Fu Killer, and then the first teaser trailers for Southpaw and Spectre.
Don't watch this. I got to still overstep. Do not watch the trailer for Southpaw if you care about spoilers. Do yourself a favor. That trailer is atrocious. I'm sorry.
That's kind of like it's something we talked about trailer habits a little bit ago, and if there's a movie I'm already interested in, I will avoid the trailer. So I'm definitely not watching the Southpaw or the Spectre trailer.
It spoils a humongous plot point in the movie.
Gotcha.
In the first 5 seconds. So don't do it.
Yeah, basically the only way I'm watching trailers is if I'm on the fence about stuff or if I'm not quite sure about it, so I don't need to see those two. But if any of you guys want to watch those trailers and give us your thoughts on that, definitely feel free to go to the website and do that. We'll definitely respond to those comments. So that's going to lead into our quick break here. We're going to be right back, and we will be talking about what movies we've watched over the last week, and then we'll get into it, our top 10 comic book films of the half decade. So that's all coming up next.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Greg.
This is Chuck.
And this is Dan, and we are Talking in Circles.
Because the world needs another podcast, we are here as Geekcast Radio's newest edition.
And as the title says, each week we get lost in conversation about a wide range of topics, including movies, comics, games, art, TV, and even occasionally sports.
We play games and discuss pivotal topics like who would win in a fight, the Kool-Aid Man or Tony the Tiger, and examine the hot-button issues of the world of geekdom.
We keep things fresh by taking timeless topics in new directions.
We are simply three friends having a fun time talking about life's most fascinating foibles.
Stay connected with us every Tuesday on iTunes or at geekcastradio.com.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing.
Download this show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Now back to the show. Do you see how your patience paid off?
Thanks for sticking with us, and it is time for the main attraction. Before we get to our top 10 countdown, though, we got to do some quick discussion of what we've been watching over the last week. Dan, I'll let you go first here. What's a film you watched this last week?
Well, I guess I'll start with the one that I was assigned last week from you. After trying to figure out which one to go with, we ended up going with Date Night, which I have not seen before.
Oh, wow.
Directed by Sean Levy and starring Steve Carell and Tina Fey. Yeah, I'm a huge Steve Carell fan. I've been a fan of him since you saw him in Daily Show, and Office is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. I like Tina Fey too, so I don't know why I never watched the movie. I think it's because I remember getting bad reviews when it came out. I don't know. I just kind of stayed away from it. So I ended up finally sitting down to watch it, and I will say that I think Carell and Tina Fey do work well together. I think they have some chemistry. I just kind of wish they had maybe some better material in some instances.
Better jokes?
I don't know. It's just that, I don't know. Director Sean Levy, I haven't really been a fan of most of the stuff he's done. And I think there was stuff in here that I thought was enjoyable. I just thought, it tried to go for that classic action comedy vibe, the people outside, the fish out of water scenarios. And I don't know. I just felt like it. I liked it. I didn't hate it by any means. There's nothing. I didn't think it was awful, but I don't know. I felt like it was really helped by the people that were in it. There was tons of people. Everyone that was a movie and had a part with some sort of celebrity, from Bill Burr to Mark Wahlberg shows up, and it's cameos galore. I don't know. I liked it. I guess considering the people involved, I would hoping it would be something a little bit better, and maybe it felt like the last 20 minutes just kind of devolved, and it didn't really work for me. But like I said, Carell's really likable, and I do think that him and Tina Fey do portray that couple that is just on the end of their leash and just trying to find a spark decently well. But I ended up giving it a 2.5, 3 in that area, similar to you last week, Kevin, where you didn't hate Secret of Kells or actively dislike it, but it just wasn't what you were looking for.
Right. DJ, have you seen Date Night?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out. There's a cameo. Spoiler alert, I guess, for like 10 years ago. There's a cameo with is that the one with Mila Kunis and
yes, yeah, I did mention that.
That part made me laugh. The rest of it was just you're saying, middling, not super funny, not awful.
That's a good point. I forgot the James Franco Mila Kunis scene. That was probably the highlight of the movie. That was rather funny. Them just being Franco just being his crazy self ended up being kind of humorous.
Especially they're not even doing scripted stuff. They're just like, hey, Franco, Mila Kunis, say something, and it is essentially what the scene feels like, and it's the funniest scene in the whole movie. So.
Oh, you were rolling. Oh, I had no idea.
See, I'm a huge Steve Carell fan. I like most of what he's done. I like his sense of humor, and I guess for me these days, like if a comedy even makes me laugh half the time, it seems like it's a success because so many comedies are so bad these days. But I'm not. I would never give it like a 5 or a 4.5 or probably not even a 4. So I can kind of see where you're at. But I enjoyed it.
More at him in Crazy Stupid Love than I did in Due Date.
Yeah,
and I think Crazy Stupid Love is more of a drama than Due Date is.
Yeah, I did like Crazy Stupid Love, that's for sure. I would put that above all the ones we've mentioned. Since you just talked about your homework, I'll go with my homework as well next, and then we'll let DJ talk a little bit. But my homework that you gave me last week was Blue Ruin, and after Netflix played mind games with me, I literally went to Netflix, typed in Blue Ruin, and it literally said on the screen, there are no matches for Blue Ruin. And I'm like, did I spell that right? How do you misspell that? And I looked at it, and I'm like, it literally says there's no matches. So I'm like, okay, I'll check Amazon Prime. Then it wasn't there. Then I'm like, well, maybe it's available on Redbox or something. So I checked that, and I'm like, why can't I get this movie? And then you're like, dude, it's on Netflix. So the next night I go type in Blue Ruin, and it's like, here's Blue Ruin. What the?
Netflix was like...
Sometimes I think Netflix does have connections where...
Ruin for a night.
I'm like, am I on Candid Camera right now? Like, what's going on here? So anyways, we were eventually able to watch Blue Ruin. And my first take on that film is I feel like I was misled by all the people that I heard review Blue Ruin. And the reason I say that is because... and there's no way for me to say the next couple sentences without spoiling things.
Spoiler alert.
So if you haven't seen Blue Ruin, jump ahead a couple minutes here. But every review that I listened to about Blue Ruin, obviously they were talking about how it was a revenge film, and what was unique about it was that he gets revenge in, the very beginning of the film. I disagree with that. I don't see him getting... I don't equate that to him getting his revenge at the beginning of the film.
The movie's about the folly of revenge, not about, him getting revenge.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that they're saying that was what it was about, but that they mentioned that he gets his revenge at the beginning, and he doesn't get his revenge at the beginning. He thinks he gets his revenge at the beginning, but he's incorrect. Mm-hmm. So... I mean, that's maybe a nitpick on semantics on what they said, but I went in with a different expectation of what I was going to see. I thought we were going to see, the ultimate revenge where, he's after somebody, he gets that revenge, he, whatever it is, he kills them, or he does whatever, and then the rest of the movie is going to be about how that messes with him, how that, whether it be guilty conscience or whether it be the fact that he's done an act that he didn't think he was capable of. I thought it was going to be kind of the devolving of this character over the course of the movie, and I'm not saying some of that doesn't happen. I just went in expecting something that was a little bit different than what I got. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying it kind of caught me off guard while I was watching it. But there's a lot to like about this film. There's a lot of just unique, crazy things that you don't see necessarily in your everyday film. So I definitely appreciated that. The transformation between the character he is at the beginning of the film, not just what he looks like, but his whole persona and how he acts and everything compared to, after he kind of physically changes his appearance, is definitely dramatic and an interesting thing to kind of partake in as you're watching that. There's definitely some scenes in that film that make you want to look away from the TV if you're, light in the stomach area or whatever, or not feeling so good. But, overall, I mean, I think it's definitely a memorable film. I liked a lot about it. I had a few problems with the way that the family that he's going after, I thought that there was some mixed message going on as far as how they're depicting that family. Because on one hand, I think you kind of got like this backwoods, I don't know if you want to call them necessarily hillbilly, but this group of people, this family that doesn't necessarily abide by the rules, that can be lethal or cold-blooded, etc. But I don't think that message was 100% consistent with that family, because I don't think they would have done some of the things that they did if that was kind of what they were. But maybe they were trying to depict them as kind of as novice as they are the main character, who's out of his element completely in what he's doing. And I think that's something that's probably the most fun about this whole film, is that, it's an everyday person, or it's someone that, I don't even know if you'd call him an everyday person, because I think even everyday people would not make some of the dumb decisions that he does.
I think that's the point, though. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, that's how, I gotta credit first-time watchers, because they kind of made me watch this, and I went into this movie cold, and at the end of it was my number 4 film of the year. I loved Blue Ruin because of the message of it, and that, it's almost like if Bennett Miller did a revenge flick. It's like, it's very like minimalist, and you're following this guy around, and he makes mistakes that you could see. He makes dumb mistakes, but not like.
He tries to stab a tire with a knife, like an absolute ignoramus.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, it's one, I've never seen that happen. Usually in the Hollywood movie, you stab a tire, you're fine. This is like the first time you stab a tire, like, oh crap, I could actually rip open my hand if I use like the.
It's gonna have some recoil on it.
So I thought it was a completely fresh take on revenge flick, which people keep saying revenge flick like it's going to be like Dirty Harry or Death Wish. It's kind of like if a regular person was thrust into a Death Wish type of situation, and that's kind of why I liked it.
Right. No, I do too, and I definitely think the revenge thing goes a lot longer than you might think, because it's definitely a theme throughout the whole thing. I also really liked his friend.
Oh yeah, the guy from Home Alone,
yeah.
Macaulay Culkin's brother.
He steals every scene he's in.
Oh yeah.
So I really appreciated him. I think overall, I'm probably somewhere in the 3.5 to probably about 3.5, maybe a low 4 on this one. I definitely thought it was enjoyable. Like I said, a couple things I had an issue with the family that he's kind of going after the whole time from a consistency standpoint, but I think that might have been intentional, so I'm not going to fault them too much for it. Dan, how did you like this one?
I love Blue Ruin. I think it was number 4 for me in my top 5 too. I really love the crime genre in the beginning, and like DJ was mentioning, just the way the deconstruction of it in a lot of ways, and just how there's so many scenes that like stick out to me, like the arrow scene, for example. I love like the final punch to that, like the setup and the build up of him going to like the CVS market or whatever, getting all this stuff, and then just where it ends up. I thought that was genius, and I love like the dark comedy of it too. And I can't think of the issues you're thinking of regarding the family and like inconsistencies all that much. Maybe I maybe go back and keep that in mind and see it again. But I don't know. I just loved the way it played with it and took its time, and I don't know. I just loved everything about it, and like I loved how it started as one thing and completely became something else by the end. So, but yeah, and I also thought the lead actor gave a really good performance. He's not playing big, or he's just really subtle, very like almost a physical performance in a lot of ways.
Right.
But killer beard too. So.
Great example of a movie that shows doesn't tell, because that could have easily been a narration or everything. You see him do one thing, you're like, what is he doing? You see him do something else, like in a jump cut, you're like, what is he doing? And then it gets to a certain thing, like, oh, that's what he's doing, like the whole time. And they do that like over and over again, which I thought was very well done, editing wise, and the way they set it up writing wise. I thought was good.
I can't think of a single other person that can shave his beard off and change his hairstyle and look more like a different completely person than that
guy. You're like, you probably look at him like, who the hell is that?
I was like looking to see who the second actor was that was playing this character.
Yeah, that's so true.
That was ridiculous. DJ, you seen any films this week that you'd like to bring up and talk about?
I saw Focus. Seeing that we were talking about Focus earlier, and I'm Will Smith's agent, so I was made to watch it. That movie is like, half of it I'm like, oh, okay, all right, and then like the second half we're like, oh, but where am I? What this happened? Like somebody changed the channel. The first half of Focus, for as much crap as that movie's getting, I guess. I mean, it's not maybe not a lot of crap. It's more like ambivalence. But as much as ambivalent people are toward it, the first half is really kind of good. I like the first half a lot. I like Margot Robbie and his chemistry. But then in the literally the movie stops. The movie could have ended in the middle, and then it just turns into a completely different movie for the second half of the movie. I'm like, what?
Did you feel like you were watching season 1 of a show and then all of a sudden season 3 of a show?
Like I thought somebody changed the channel and I was watching a different Will Smith movie. Like, what just happened? I want to go back to what it completely changes. I wish if the first half was the second half and the second half was the first half, you might have had a really good movie. But here you have half of a movie and half of another one, which makes kind of like
my biggest problem was with Focus is the payoff at the end. And like I said,
I didn't care about that payoff.
Yeah, that's my problem. When we were talking about Focus, in any type of con movie, the movie's either going to be good or bad based on the final reveal or the final twist or the final way that it all comes, the resolution. And if that fails, it really hurts the entire movie.
Imagine if I watched the first half. I'm not going to spoil anything. I watched the first half, and you know what first half I'm talking about. And when it gets to the payoff of the first half, I was so pissed off. I was like, I don't effing believe he's doing. Oh my! I'm getting angry at this movie. This is stupid. And then when it paid off, I was like, oh, that was brilliant. Now imagine if that was the end of the movie.
Right.
That would have been way better than the payoff at the end. The second payoff they have, which is this. Not that I forgot about all the setup they did in the first part. I just didn't care. I was more worried about they set up this world of the con. And I'm like, yes, tell me more. And when they're doing the pickpocketing stuff and all that stuff, that stuff was interesting. All those characters, except for the weird fat guy, disappeared. Like, oh, I want to know his handler. Go back to the crew. His unit.
Right.
Where those people go?
If your twist at the end completely makes some of the scenes prior to that make absolutely no sense, then that's a problem.
I mean, one thing I'll say about the movie, two things. I might be biased because I do have like a big crush on Margot Robbie, like everybody else in the world.
I thought you were going to say Will Smith.
Well, Will Smith, that's a given. But they do have very good chemistry, and I don't know, maybe it's just me. I really like how this film is shot. It looks, like it didn't. It looked like it was some effort in the cinematography. Put it that way. This could have been one of those flat, nothingness movies, but I thought it was shot really artistic. So my friend said it looked like a car commercial. But like there are certain scenes that I thought were done really well. It's just, man, I think this needed one more. Somebody needs to look at the script and go, hey, why don't we flip this? We get a better. Cause
one of those times where it would have been good if there was a second name attached or a third name attached. And there probably was. I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been. If somebody would have done another pass at this script or watched watch it once and go, yeah, I think the football scene's way better than the last scene. Maybe we should put the football scene at the end. Then this movie would have been like it would have went from which right now it's kind of like a C+ to like a B. But right now it's just a C+ for me, or a 2, 2.5.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that thoughts, and we're kind of right there with you with what we said about it. Dan, did you see a second film this week?
Yeah, I watched a few things, but the one thing I'm trying to do actually is. I went through the Sight and Sound poll, the critics like top 250, and actually going to try to work through that as much as I can. It's going to be quite the challenge, but so I did watch some movies that were on that I have not seen before, and one that I caught up with was Buster Keaton's Sherlock Jr. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched a Buster Keaton film, but yes. I would highly recommend them a great deal. And Sherlock Jr. is such a great time. I am amazed time and time again, like within that film, there's so many sequences, like the stunts in that are just ridiculous. And you hear the term like cinema magic or movie magic. I think it's movies like that where it comes from, because it is a lot of those sequences are like magic tricks, because you're thinking of that time 90 years ago and what Buster Keaton was able to pull off. There's this amazing sequence where he's working at a movie theater and he like actually ends up walking up to the screen and stepping into the picture, which is that sequence in itself was pretty impressive. But then it goes through like 6 or 7 different sequences, like changing the channel, and he's like within it and like just the editing and the requirements just to make that scene work, and like how much work went into like what had to be like a 10-second, if that, maybe a few second scene is incredible. And Buster Keaton himself, the stunts that they were doing in this film, he broke his neck, and he didn't realize it at the time. But there's a sequence where he's like on top of this like water tower, and he ended up breaking his neck. He had migraines for years, and that wasn't until like years later that he found out that they actually fractured his neck while making this movie. But it's not hard to see looking at some of the like things that they do stunt wise, and it's so many times I would smile all the time. There's all these great things. There's a great pool sequence where it's using billiards where I don't want to give anything away to this 90-year-old movie. But it's streaming on Netflix, and I legitimately think you could put this movie in front of an audience today, and it would get as much laughs as it did when it first debuted, because it's just universal fun slapstick, but done in a really smart way and with really interesting, like, you know, solid characters as well. So with a good heart, I loved it. I gave it like story-wise, it's not a very complex story. It's a silent film, so it's hard to really have really complex stories. So I gave it 4 out of 5. Or 4.5 out of 5, near a 5. It's one of the legitimately belongs in the top 250 movies of all time. So
he should have died so many times. I saw The General. I think that's the one.
Yeah, that's an awesome movie.
The guy should have died. Like, he's like Jackie Chan before Jackie Chan. He's doing
exactly.
crazy stuff. And I'm like, there's no wires. He's doing all this stuff on himself. He's jumping off of 20-foot tall buildings, landing on the ground. I'm like, how are you doing this? How are you not dead?
I know. There's a sequence in here where like it's a train station next, and he's on top of this huge building. He literally holds on top of the thing that goes across the street to block the street off. He goes on it all the way to the ground, landing on top of a truck, and it's you know, no wires or anything. It's just this guy doing it, and you're like, man, this guy.
Anything goes wrong, he's dead.
Exactly. It's insane, but I would highly recommend it to anyone. I just don't know how you cannot watch his movies and still like they're great. I mean, him and you know, obviously there's a lot of great silent film. You know, Chaplin as well, but I tend to enjoy Buster Keaton a little bit more, but they're both great, obviously.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 stole that. There's a part where Spider-Man is in the street and he just puts his arm out and he grabs like a fire truck and it pulls him away. That is stolen shot for shot from a Buster Keaton movie. Where he did it for real, where it was no digital effects. A car drove by and he grabbed onto it and flew away.
No CGI for sure. No CGI.
Well, I'll definitely have to add this one to the list of things that I need to see. So
it's only like 80 minutes too. It's not a very long. No, it's even shorter than that. It's a short. I think it's like 60 minutes. It's really short. So
nice. All right. The only other ones I did watch a couple films that are directly related to our list today, so I won't bring those up. But continuing the Harry Potter crusade that I started a few weeks ago, obviously, as we make our way to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter here in less than 2 weeks from today. So we're kind of in the mad rush at the end here, since we had only been through 3 films at this point. We had a bit of ways to go. So this week I watched 2 of them. We watched the 3rd and 4th film, which if I get the titles right, Prisoner of Azkaban and the Goblet of Fire.
Yep.
All right, got them right. And I'll say I definitely really did like. I'm not going to get into these a lot. I know people have seen the Harry Potter films and heard reviews on them a long time ago. So Prisoner of Azkaban, I'd say that one and the second one so far are my 2 favorites. Obviously, we've changed directors now after the first 2, and this one was actually directed by Alfonso Cuarón, which I did not know when all the Gravity buzz was going on. I didn't realize he also directed the Harry Potter film, so I slept on that. But I liked a lot about Prisoner of Azkaban. I liked the different take, like you were saying, Dan, where it kind of goes away from the kid friendliness and kind of gets into a few more dark elements or darker elements. So I really liked Prisoner of Azkaban. I'd probably give that like a low 4 out of 5. And then we watched Goblet of Fire, which we watched in chunks. We watched everything except for like the last 45 minutes in one sitting, and then we had to come back and watch the final 45 minutes in another sitting. If it was just based on the first 2/3 of the movie, this would have easily been the worst of the 4 films, I think, for me. The last 45 minutes save it a lot for me because it gives a lot more backstory, and you kind of see Voldemort and the backstory behind that, and a bunch of other characters. And it does have a main role by that Mr. Gleason character. What's his name? Moody?
Mad-eyed Moody, I think.
Yeah, which he's one of my favorite characters so far in the series. So the last 45 minutes really saved this film for me, because otherwise it was a hands-down worst of the four. The whole, we're going to have the different schools come in, and then we're going to have like a dance night where you have to ask for a date, and we're going to get mad at each other for dancing with other people. I was really not into that at all. And a couple other things as well. But like I said, the last 45 minutes saved it, so I'll probably give this one like a 3 out of 5. It's still the worst out of the 4 that I've seen, but not as bad as I thought I was going to give a review for it. So I'll try to, since I only have 2 weeks left, you'll hear probably another 2 films next week, and we'll see if I can get them all in before we actually leave on our trip. So
is that the one with Robert Pattinson? I know he's in the one.
Yes, Goblet of Fire is Robert Pattinson. Yeah. Which I also didn't. I guess, realized that I must not have seen this film the first time around, because I thought I saw all the films originally, but I literally remembered none of Goblet of Fire, so maybe I somehow missed that, which it does tie some loose ends that I always was wondering, like, how did they explain that? They never talk about that. No, they did it in this movie. I just apparently didn't see it. So I'm caught up now. So DJ, anything else you'd like to bring up film-wise?
Film-wise, oh man,
that you saw recently?
Recently, I was gonna watch. I can tell you a movie I was gonna watch, and I stopped myself.
What's that?
I was gonna watch The Duff, just because.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. I was bored.
You don't have to explain yourself.
Yeah, I was like, I put it on. 5 seconds in. Nah, I'll finish out the cards.
Nice.
I remember a time where I guess because when I was a teenager, I used to love like films like that. You know, She's All That and stuff like that. Can't Hardly Wait. And all these movies, they're so lazily done. When's the last good teen? Like, is it Mean Girls? Is that Mean Girls the last good teen?
I like Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Well, Perks of Being a Wallflower. I don't even know if I call that in Spectacular now. It's almost like that. I can consider that a drama. I barely consider that a teen, like a fun teen.
Yeah.
Perks of Being a Wallflower is not really that fun. if you think about it, it's like the darkest film ever.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's the last good fun teen? I mean, it just I don't know. All of them is maybe because I'm just an old bastard. I don't remember.
The listeners will have to educate us on that. What are the good teen films like that in the last 10 years? Dan, what about you? Anything else that you didn't get to mention yet?
Not really. I mean, I watched Going Clear, the Scientology documentary on HBO. And
have you
Tom
been
Cruise.
Indoctrinated yet? Have they come to your house yet? Have they check your thetan levels yet?
I would definitely be categorized as an SP, the suppressive person, because I think they're crazy people.
You're not wrong.
I do not think you're crazy people, Scientologists who are listening. Dan Clark said that. Do not come to my house to try and kill me.
It's interesting because the first hour, like, whatever, believe what you want to believe. The first hour is just kind of a good history of, like, Scientology, where it came from. But the second hour, you just find out just like the dark secrets of that franchise, and just, like, how much, just how, like, the evilness in some ways, or... Like, it is like they have like child labor, like paying people like 30 cents an hour. You know, at one point making someone like an actress that basically making her become the girlfriend of Tom Cruise, possibly, and then like after it didn't work out, making her like clean up the bathrooms using a toothbrush, and and like also like just how they became a religion in the first place, where they were categorized as being a religion just because they made over hundreds of lawsuits to the IRS and told the IRS that if they made them become a religion, then these lawsuits would go away. And I mean, I'm a defender of Tom Cruise, but after watching that, you're like, man, there's some questionable things that were done.
How did it not work out though? What did they go into specifics? Did he like look at her and have her turn around and say, no, that's what I'll do? Did he like?
It didn't really specify, but it's how like she had to look a certain way. They had to do her hair a certain way. It just I guess they were arguing a lot, so it just ended up not working.
Oh,
that's creepy.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's Alex Gibney, who does a lot of great documentaries. He's done some 30 for 30s and stuff like that. So it's on HBO Go now, and it's a good watch. It's fascinating, really. It's just just the entire.
It's one of those that you're trying to watch the whole time and understand how this is actually real or how
exactly. You're just like, this is so like L. Ron Hubbard himself. They have a lot of great archival footage of like actual Scientology like meetings and like occasions. And there's this one they have at like one of like the major stadiums, and it's just insane because they've basically grown into this $1 billion religion because they don't have to pay taxes. So they've like accumulated all this wealth. It's kind of insane just looking at how powerful it's become.
God, I really like Tom Cruise movies. Don't ruin this for me, man.
I know. I
want to see Rogue Nation, man. Come on, or Rogue State, whatever it's called, Rogue whatever, Rogue One, whatever it's called.
No, that's Star Wars. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it then for what we've been watching, and we will get into the reason that everybody's listening to get to our top 10 list for the half decade. Now, if you remember back when we did the science fiction and fantasy list, we were going to kind of switch things up a tiny bit for the comic book films. When we did the science fiction and fantasy, all four of us, Hyro, Matt, Dan, and myself, we all had our own top 10, and we kind of alternated going back and forth, and we probably covered a good, I don't know, Dan, 30 films or 35 films.
We didn't have a huge amount of crossover, but we had some.
Right, so anywhere from 20 to 30 films I think we talked about. We're going to do things a little different because there's just not as many films to pick from in the comic book film genre over, from 2010 to 2014. So what we've done for this list is we've actually already compiled, DJ, Dan, and myself have compiled our list together. And what I have here is the results when you take all of ours together on one final top 10. So we're just giving you one top 10 list, and we'll be able to react individually as we go through the list from 10 to 1, and then we'll quick at the end talk about any films that one of us voted on that didn't actually make the top 10. So a little different style. I think it'll fit this one a little bit better. Otherwise it would just be the three of us repeating movies and saying, hey, I'll talk about that later for the rest of the list. So hopefully this will work out better. Dan, anything you wanted to say before we get to the actual list? Anything that kind of shaped the way you did it, or was this one pretty straightforward? If it was based on a comic book film, it was eligible?
Basically, yeah. If it was based on a graphic novel or comic book film, it was eligible. So, yeah, I kind of, and with that, basically, yeah, it was not really much else to go off of. Right.
And DJ, I assume it's pretty straightforward for you as well. You didn't eliminate anything for any weird reasons?
I mean, we did talk about this off air about a certain movie I went on the list that it was kind of in the flux of being last year and this year. And there's one that came to mind earlier, but I'll wait for our honorable mentions to bring it up because I know it wasn't on. It's probably not going to be on this list, but I like just to talk about it. That's a good comic book movie that kind of slipped through the cracks.
Absolutely. All right, so with that, we will get to our number 10 selection, which is Captain America, the First Avenger. Made it on my list and DJ's list. Very surprised that it didn't make it into Dan's top 10, although he did give me an 11th and a 12th choice, so I realized that it was very close to making his top 10. But Captain America, the First Avenger comes in at our 10th best comic book films for the decade, and we're obviously, again, talking 2010 to 2014, the first half of the decade. So, DJ, what do you think about that coming in at number 10 out of the last 5 years?
I mean, I grew up on comics.
It's where you had it.
Yeah, that's where I had it. I hated Captain America, the character, and this movie made me like Captain America, the character. And that, to understand how my hate works, it's usually forever. Like, I really did not like the character because he's square-jawed, he's boring, and Chris Evans, who had already been playing, Human Torch, I'm like, this is a bad idea. Going into the movie, this is a bad idea. I don't understand how this is going to work. And coming out, there was one moment in the movie that he wins you over, and he's not even freaking Captain America yet. It's in the commercial. You all know it. It's when Tommy Lee Jones pops the grenade and throws it on the ground, and he jumps on it. I'm like, I can root for that guy. In that one moment, you made him a hero, and he doesn't have any powers. So yeah, that for that movie to make me at this point now really love a character that before that movie came out I absolutely hated, I got to put it on my top 10.
I think this one was an important film too in the whole building up of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because obviously everybody likes RDJ as Iron Man. Like, that was established. That had to work like it did for this all to happen. But I think you really needed something like Evans as Captain America to work as well, to kind of give that counterpunch to it. because I don't think a lot of people are, jumping up and down for Incredible Hulk. And I'm not saying today, but I'm just saying kind of, at that time, or at least maybe that's just me being my own bias. That's not a character I'm going to get super excited about. So having somebody work like Captain America to give us that kind of duality between Iron Man and Captain America was very important to me, I think, in this whole build-up. And at the time, it wasn't my favorite of the films because I kind of have something that we'll get to in honorable mentions for one of the other characters. But I thought it was a real good movie. I think what makes it drop down a little bit on the list maybe and not come in quite as high is more so with the if you're looking at the villain.
Yeah.
I don't
you
know
Red
if
Skull
it's
talking about.
Right. I'm talking about maybe not as epic of a villain for me as what we get in with some of our other comic book films that'll come up probably later on. But overall, you can't take too much away from this film. It's a pretty good film. Dan, why did it just barely miss your top 10?
I guess it maybe just guilty by comparison because I was thinking just how much I loved Winter Soldier, so I figured I was going to just try to fit. There's so many to choose from, so I ended up just putting one on my top 10. It was number 11. It was really close, and unlike DJ, Captain America has always been a character I've really enjoyed, mostly because of the Ed Brubaker run that happened a few years ago when I got back into comics. And I think what the movie did really well is that it didn't make him into a patriot. It didn't, because that's not what's great about Captain America. It's not that he's this huge patriot. It's just that he's just a really great person.
Yeah.
And that is I think the key to it. It's not. And I think they showed that in a lot of ways, especially the build-up, like DJ mentioned, before he even gets his powers. It's just that will and that the desire and this hatred of bullies, and because you can see where it's coming from because he's a guy who's been bullied his entire life, and so and the transformation, how they made that work, is pretty. It doesn't, I think, hold up as well right now. Looking at it again, I've rewatched it a few times, and there are some spots where it looks a little bit iffy, but overall, making Chris Evans this little small person ended up looking a lot better than I anticipated. And I love just how it feels like a classic serial, like the classic Raiders of the Lost Ark. You can see Joe Johnson loves that type of style, and I think he was a good guy to get for that movie. The only thing that knocks it a little bit, I just don't think there's the epic action set pieces of it in a lot of ways. There's some good points here and there, but a big chunk of that movie is there are sequences, classic Dirty Dozen type of sequences, which work, but they don't have the complete feel of a really good set piece, like something like Winter Soldier does. So it's good. I love the adventure of it, and even the song, that's really cool. There's so many.
The music is better. I'd say the music is really good.
Yeah, so it's a good movie for sure, and I have no qualms with it making the top 10.
All right. So that is our number 10 pick, Captain America the First Avenger, which brings us to number 9. Maybe some people that'll be surprised that this is making our list, or maybe not. I don't know how many people would expect it or not, but we're going to 2012 here. It was on both of your guys' list, and that is the film Dread. So that is coming in at number 9. DJ, we'll start with you in the last one, so we'll start with Dan on this one. But what made you appreciate Dread enough to put it in your top 10?
It made me completely forget about the 90s Sylvester Stallone movie.
And that's all it had to do.
I love Carl Urban in that role. It's just great. He plays it so well. He just knows how to you have just the right amount of cheese, but right amount of badassery. I love the simple concept of it. I mean, unfortunately, it came out the same year as The Raid, and they had very similar stories. Obviously, they didn't copy it from one another because they came out the same year, but I just love that it's just this movie, action film, and I almost waited to include this in Best Action, but I put it here, and I love the use of 3D in this was actually really good when I saw it in the theater with the slow-mo. It looks kind of cool, especially when they were going down and at the ground and going over the side of the building. But and I don't know. I just think it's a really well done action film.
All right, and what about you, DJ?
I mean, come on, guys, if you're listening to me, Carl Urban is a G. I mean, the man. He nails Bones in Star Trek almost better than than Quinto nails Nemo. Then he jumps into Dread, a franchise that was dead. It made Dread awesome.
Yeah.
I never read a lot of Dread. I mean, I watched the Sylvester Stallone one, and I was like, "What? This is a cheesy '90s piece of crap." And then but when I saw Carl Urban put the helmet on and refused to take it off because he read the comic book and knew the point of the character is he doesn't take the damn helmet off. He is the law. That's his personality. He just nailed every line, every action set piece. And the girl from Juno, who's in it, I forget her name, the Anderson, whatever, her, also very good. Lena Headey nailed it. It's essentially Clint Eastwood, which I think they based Dredd off of anyway. He just knocks it out of the park. He's so awesome. It's so sad this movie won't get a sequel because it's probably one of the better comic movies of 2012. That line where he's talking on the radio, "Mama, I'm coming. It's just judgment time." That junk is so awesome. It just nailed every part. And I mean, come on, it's Carl Urban. Everything he does 100%. You can tell in the whole film.
And this film might have made it even higher on our list had I seen it.
Oh,
so maybe it was the stigma of the '90s version that I guess I just didn't think this was I just didn't consider this a film that I needed to watch back in 2012, and I need to watch it now. I didn't get a chance.
America, so.
Yeah.
Did you see John Wick?
Yeah.
It's like a comic book version of John Wick.
Well, then I'm all for that because I love John Wick. So, and definitely on my list to see. I just didn't quite, wasn't quite able to squeeze it in before we got to our list. So I couldn't add any points to it. So that's probably why it sits at our number 9 spot and not any higher. Going into our number 8 of the last 5 years, that would be the movie Kick-Ass, which also is on both of your lists. DJ, you had this one the highest. So why is Kick-Ass such a great comic book film in your eyes?
Kick-Ass. Essentially the deconstruction. I mean, there's 2 movies I think that really broke down what a superhero is. Unbreakable, when Shyamalan wasn't crazy, and Kick-Ass, which I love the book. And Matthew Vaughn, guys, if you've seen a certain Kingsman movie that came out this year, really knows how to do ultra-violence, and that's what Kick-Ass is. Mark Millar. Hit Girl. I'm just trying to think of what is bad about Kick-Ass. Everything in that movie, every character is awesome. And it's rarity when, Mark Strong is the bad guy. He's hilarious. His henchman, awesome. His son, McLovin, awesome. Hit Girl, amazing. Nick Cage doing Adam West as Batman as Big Daddy, awesome. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's now Quicksilver, is the most likable character he's ever played and probably will ever play. Awesome. It's just that whole film is done perfectly. And if you want to see when Mark Millar stepped away and they did the second Kick-Ass, you can just tell it's Matthew Vaughn that was running that show that gave that movie so much juice. And it's colorful. It's a colorful, ultra-violent, awesome comic book movie that essentially gets to the heart of what a comic book movie is, a superhero should be. I mean, in a very cynical way, in a very humorous way, but it brings up a lot of stuff that other comic book movies have never ever brought up. I think it's a really good book, that first Kick-Ass book, and I think this movie translates it perfectly, to me. So.
All right. Well, I find it interesting so far because we had Captain America: The First Avenger at the 10th spot, which is what DJ had it ranked. We had Dredd at 9. Dan, that's where you had Dredd at. And we have Kick-Ass at 8, Dan, and that's where you have Kick-Ass. So apparently we're just going off of your list here.
What else you got, Dan?
So is 8 the appropriate spot for Kick-Ass, Dan? I mean, DJ had it up at 4.
I guess so. I mean, I'm curious to see what else is on here before I say that. But like, I kind of just echo everything that DJ mentioned. I love the satirical edge that it has, and it really pushes that envelope in a smart way, and it's both like gruesome and funny, and it takes itself seriously but not too seriously. And I don't know, and the action that Matthew Vaughn can direct is just it's fantastic. The guy just knows how to it's just such high energy, and especially his choice of music, I think really plays well with just the ultra violence that's going on when you have this happy, cheery, like Japanese pop song playing at times. It's such a great, it's so morbid in the best ways possible.
DJ, is Kick-Ass or Kingsman the better film?
Kick-Ass. I love Kingsman, but I think Kick-Ass has the story is a little bit tighter, and it has I think the characters are more. Hit Girl to me is probably one of the most memorable comic book characters you're going to see. Just Chloe Grace Moretz has got a career now because of Hit Girl. Anytime anybody sees her, all they're going to freaking remember is her as Hit Girl. And Nicolas Cage is in the movie for, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He essentially, every scene is like somebody trying to steal the movie from somebody else. It's just a very, very good movie. Kingsman is great. Colin Firth, to me, is the best character in that movie. The other guy, I forget the lead. He's fine, but there's not enough characters in there that are as equal to Kick-Ass to me.
All right, fair enough. So those are our 10th, 9th, and 8th picks, so that makes us up to number 7, and we're going to go to the world of DC for our number 7th film, which would be The Dark Knight Rises.
Of course!
Dan, we'll start with you because it's not anywhere on your list. So are we off putting this on the top 10?
No, I like Dark Knight Rises. I know it gets a lot of crap. I'm not one that I enjoy it. I tend to end up being the defender of it. I had films I thought were stronger than it. But yeah, I like Dark Knight Rises a lot. I know there are some plot issues. It's not nearly as good as Dark Knight, which I think is such a hard movie to compare it to. I think of it like the Back to the Future trilogy, where it's like the third one is just getting compared to like the two other films that are so much better, but that's fine. But I love Tom Hardy as Bane. I think it's a good character, and some of the sequences in that I think are not nearly as respected as they should be, especially like the early sequence with Bane and the plane escape. I feel like people just forgot about that, and I think that's just such an amazing set piece. And I think Anne Hathaway's Catwoman's pretty fantastic, and I think you have some plotting issues, some logistic issues, but and plot holes if you want to point those out. But I still think it's a good conclusion for that trilogy.
I feel like the Dark Knight trilogy, for some reason, just keeps I don't know, like so many people were saying so many good things about it, and I feel like the same people, as time goes by, keep trying to retract statements about that trilogy that they made. I don't quite understand why it gets kind of pooped on as much as it does recently. With the Marvel Cinematic Universe amping up and stuff like that, and people are just, anytime anything's dark and gritty, they get frustrated about it, and I get that, but they do it in a way that they try to almost make it seem like the Dark Knight trilogy is not good. And I think that's silly because all three of those films are quality. I mean, I'm not saying that Dark Knight Rises is the best of the three by any means, but I don't understand why over time people keep getting harsher on those films.
I think it might be because of what it did, not what it is. Dark and gritty works for certain characters. It works for Daredevil. Right. It works for Punisher. It works for Batman. It doesn't work for Superman. It doesn't work for Spider-Man. It shouldn't be dark and gritty and gothic and emo. It shouldn't be that. And because they kind of know it kind of started with the Nolan trilogy, they blame it for a lot of stuff.
Right.
And Dark Knight Rises to me has gaping plot holes to me, and it's kind of sloppily strung together near the end because Nolan was writing Interstellar at the time, so his mind was probably elsewhere. But it's still the spectacle, the set pieces are so astronomically huge. You have 1,000 cops fighting 1,000 Ra's al Ghul soldiers in the middle of the street, and that's not CGI Lord of the Rings stuff. They're actually fighting there. That's a set piece you wouldn't do. That's old Hollywood stuff. So just for the balls the guy does with these set pieces, I had to put it on the list. And like Dan was saying, Bane is Tom Hardy. You're not going to get me to say anything bad about Tom Hardy. He's my first round draft pick in our fantasy draft. Come on.
Yeah, really good as Bane for sure.
I'm not to plug my fantasy draft or anything, but yeah. And Anne Hathaway, to me, when she got cast, everybody gave her crap, and I think she's probably my favorite character in this movie. She's one of the only ones that are having fun. And for Nolan, who's not a good director and writer of women, she's probably the best, one of the best female characters he's ever had in any of his movies. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I rewatched this week just to try to see exactly where it should rank for me. And really the only thing on a recent rewatch that I liked less than I did the first time was maybe Christian Bale. He didn't quite do as well for me as I had liked him in my former self when I saw it the first time. But outside of that, I thought a lot of it kind of held up. Just, like you said, the airplane scene, Tom Hardy as Bane, Catwoman, a bunch of the other side, the supporting actors and were really good. So yeah, I think if there's a DC film that needs to be ranked in our top 10 for the decade so far, it's got to be Dark Knight Rises. There's nothing else that could be in this discussion. So that is our pick for number 7. Getting into number 6, we're going to a little bit different here. We're going with Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which, Dan, you had this ranked at your number 4 spot. So how do you feel about Scott Pilgrim versus the World coming in at number 6 for the decade?
I think it's a good spot. I'll admit it. Like, the first time I saw Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I was like, that's fine. I enjoy it. It's a good time. But the more I've watched it, the more I'm like, wow, this is actually... there's a lot more here than meets the eye. Not to steal a line from Transformers, but
sure.
Yeah,
that was last week. We talked about science fiction and fantasy.
But yeah, and I think we talked about like what's a good teen comedy. I think this kind of fits in that realm, definitely for sure. There's just a lot of great characters. Like Edgar Wright, like he just got the style and the atmosphere of that comic books down so well, and just it's just craziness and just the really great visual storytelling and all the little elements of it. So it's I think it's more than just like this, this ripping off of video games and just taking that culture and just throwing it together. I think there's a lot there. And Michael Cera kicking ass and then actually looking legitimate is an accomplishment within itself. So I think it's I don't know. I like it a lot. I find it really rewatchable too. Like I think the more times I've watched it, the more times I tend to enjoy it. The more I tend to enjoy it.
You're saying that you got more enjoyment on second, third watches. So maybe that's what I need to do, because on first watch, it just didn't do anything for me. So I left it off of my list. But maybe I need to revisit it. And I know I've never heard anybody else say anything bad about it, so I'm probably wrong. So I'll try to rewatch it and see if I get some more out of it the second time. But DJ, it's on your list as well. So what do you have to say about Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
I agree with Dan. I think this film did like 2 things for me. What Dan was saying, it completely nails the feel of the comic book. Like, just like how Sin City, the first Sin City, nailed the feel of that book, Scott Pilgrim nails the feel of that book. And it's probably one of the rare trifectas. It's like the best comic book film of that year, 2000, one of the best of 2010, one of the best video game films of all time, and probably one of the funniest comic book films of all time. The humor. It's like that and Guardians to me that are like that. I'm watching it and I'm like out loud laughing at it. It's very, very funny. All the performances I thought were pretty good. Michael Cera can grate on you. I can see how people either love him or hate him. But I mean, if you hate him, don't worry. He gets his ass kicked the majority of this movie.
Like, yeah, I mean, there's some of the random cameos, like Brandon Routh or Thomas Jane is great. Chris Evans is
awesome in this movie.
So good, yeah.
But no, I thought it was. I didn't know anything about the book. I heard about it. I never read it. And after I watched the movie, I read the book, and I'm like, wow, Edgar Wright, and it just makes me so sad. And you know why it makes me sad? Because he could have been doing this to Ant-Man, and now...
No, I'm sad.
Bad things. Bad thoughts. But, I wish he was doing... I actually do wish he was doing Ant-Man, too, even if I didn't like Scott Pilgrim as much as you guys did. But that rounds up the first half here. So we got Captain America, the First Avenger, Dredd, Kick-Ass, Dark Knight Rises, and Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So let's head into the top half here of our list with our number 5 pick for the decade so far being X-Men. Pause. First Class.
Oh, I was like, which one? Which one?
So, X-Men First Class taking the 5th spot. Dan, I know you're probably a little bit upset about that, but you had this at your number 1. So, how do you feel as it being in our top 5 at least?
I'm happy it made the top 5. I like I said, I probably overrate this movie a little bit, but that's okay. Like I maybe ignorantly say this is Marvel's best movie ever, but maybe it's just because my love of X-Men, but I don't know. I just think it has everything I look for in a movie. There's some issues with it. I think some of the side X-Men characters like Darwin and like Havoc maybe aren't the greatest, but strength of the movie, clearly Michael Fassbender in his role as Magneto, Charles Xavier, James McAvoy, his performance and their relationship. There's if I look at like my favorite scenes of any comic book movie, this has like 5 of them, with the infamous scene of Magneto moving the satellite, and I just feel like that's a really powerful moment, especially for a comic book movie. I love the running motif of the coin and where it starts off and where it ends. I love that image, that the image of seeing that coin go through the head. Spoiler alert! And like seeing that image and seeing it correspond with like McAvoy screaming. I just think it's so great. I love how it's the backdrop of Cuban Missile Crisis to give it a little bit more of a more weight to what's going on. So I don't know. There's so much I love about First Class, and then to top it all off, the Magneto themes, that score, it's fantastic.
Science Monster. That's the name of the
yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I hope they bring it back in the next X-Men movie, because it was like that was there's not many Marvel films have had good scores, like Marvel or like X-Men or what have you, and that one is one that always stands out to me. So
has there ever been a film or a franchise where characters have been recast as their younger selves and it's been done better than they did with X-Men First Class?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
You gotta give me a minute. It might not have been done because one, you've replaced Rebecca Romaine Stamos and Ian McKellen with Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence. It's pretty damn good.
Right. Even Patrick Stewart to James McAvoy.
Who I love. James McAvoy is one of those underrated great actors. So,
yeah.
It's like growing up where you're watching cartoons growing up, and they would always. Every like franchise cartoon would always come up with like, oh, it's the younger versions of, the Flintstones, or the younger versions of, and obviously that's not actors being recast, but that just has a stigma for me. Anytime I hear that they're going to be like doing a younger group of people I know, I just always automatically think it's going to be bad, and it was so good in this. Yeah. So that's I think one of the most impressive parts about it, and I can't argue with much of what Dan's saying. I didn't have it quite as high as he did, but I have no problem with it being in the top 5. I think this is a great film.
Once again, Matthew Vaughn. That scene with the coin to me is one of I just remember in the theater. No, like when you realize what's about to happen, it's like one of the most geek-tastic moments. I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to move the coin. It's so Fassbender nails it when he says he nails it, the scene, and he nails Magneto when he goes, "I just want you to know, I completely agree with you." But I've said this on my podcast before. The way he delivers that lines in that scene, and if you're a comic book geek, if you understand what's happening, how Professor Xavier, spoiler alert, can't release Sebastian, because if he does, Sebastian will blow up and kill everybody. So he has to hold on to Sebastian and feel the pain that Magneto is forcing through Sebastian in order for everyone not to die. That is some really comic book geeky good writing right there. So yeah, in fact, and the performances are all. Jennifer Lawrence is kind of like when she was starting to get into her own. She wasn't like super great, like she wasn't like Silver Linings Playbook Jennifer Lawrence, but she was still pretty damn good. But Fassbender, that movie made me think Fassbender should play Bond. Because the first half of the movie is essentially him going around as James Bond killing Nazis. I was like, this is awesome. What is this?
Yeah, I mean that scene in the bar, like that,
and the pub.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Pig Farmer.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of good things to say about X-Men First Class. We'll have to see if we talk about X-Men at all the rest of the way, which brings us to our number 4, which is X-Men Days of Future Past. So,
we haven't talked about this in a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, so X-Men First Class at number 5, X-Men Days of Future Past at number 4. That's, for once I got it right, that's what I had. I had it ranked number 4 on my list, so I get to join the party of getting one on the dot. DJ, you and I had X-Men Days of Future Past slightly above First Class, whereas Dan had them flip-flopped. Obviously, it's kind of just a personal preference, tomato type thing. But what makes you, DJ, put Days of Future Past above First Class?
If a comic book movie is almost like driving me to tears, there's certain scenes in that movie that are like, almost like too good to be in a comic movie. And I love comic movies, but man, there's scenes in there I'm like, this is really, really good acting going on here in a movie where a guy has knives come out of his hands and a woman can change into a short guy. It's just like the scene with the scene I'm talking about is the McKellen McAvoy scene, which is done so well. This is also one of the, when I say the best, but one of the most, not say accurate, but well done time travel movies. I mean, they kind of they crib the comic book a little bit, because in the comic book it's Shadowcat that goes back, and in the movie it's Jackman. But the logic of the time travel is Back to the Future logic done better. Because Back to the Future logic, there's two Marty McFlys running around here, but here they kind of circumvent it where they do the consciousness thing, which is, I think, a more cleaner way to do it, and it all makes sense in the end. And it's not as action-packed as an X-Men First Class, but I mean, you got scenes with Ian McKellen, and you got scenes with Fassbender as the same character. The movie's just done really, really well. And I mean, thank God Bryan Singer did this, because wasn't he coming off of Jack the Giant Slayer?
Oh God! Oh man!
So this is kind of like, look, let me go to the drawing board. Go back to what I did really well before, and this is like this is just my favorite X-Men film of all of them.
I think for me, I'm a sucker for time travel stories when they're done right, and this one definitely was, so that's one reason why I put it up so high. And maybe it was because of how good First Class was that it just had me, anticipating this one so much and really wanting to get more of the interaction between the two versions of all of these characters. And it's just done in a very cool way, some of the interactions and some of just the appearances of both, the older versions of these characters and the younger versions, and it just was fun to watch. And I agree. Even some of the scenes, with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen were great. And just the idea of, even if you know that it's not real or that it's not going to last, seeing the brutal way that some of these characters get.
How did they get away with a PG-13 with this? People were getting murdered in this movie.
Right. And even though, like I said, even though you know that that's probably going to get erased via time travel, explanation, logic or whatever, it's still fun. I say that shouldn't, probably not the right word, but it's still entertaining seeing some of those characters, bite it, and that's something you never get to see. Right. Dan, what do you think about Days of Future Past?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it was number, still in the top 5 for me as well, and I loved how some of the smaller, like really, unknown characters really stole the show. Like obviously Quicksilver scene, Time in the Bottle, that's been talked about a lot, deservingly so. And the character that everyone thought was going to be awful ended up being one of the best parts of the movie, which is. And
Carl Jr.'s commercials ruined him.
Exactly, and even like Blink, I thought her use of her portals were so effective in that with some of those action sequences, some really inventive sequences. I think that's the best thing about the X-Men franchises and X-Men films that I like more than the other, like even Avengers, is that with the variety of different powers and stuff, you can get some more inventive action sequences where it's more strategic with the way they use their powers and stuff like that, where it's, Avengers, especially the first film, it's a lot of just punching, which isn't, enjoyable, but I think you get some more, more different ways, especially even Magneto and his use of the Sentinels I thought was a lot of fun. I mean, I was hoping a little bit more from Peter Dinklage. I just thought they didn't give him enough to do. But overall, I did really like that movie. It was my most anticipated film last year, and it didn't disappoint me. So,
absolutely.
It's probably the most dramatic comic book movie we've had since Marvel-wise. It's got to be the most dramatic one.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so that leaves it down to our top 3, and I know people are probably trying to predict what's there. It's not too hard, guys. But our number 3 film out of the top 10 for the last decade so far is going to be none other than last year's Guardians of the Galaxy. DJ, you had this one at number 3, and that's where it comes in. I had this one at number 2. Dan, you had it a little bit further down, I think at number 6. So, DJ, why is Guardians of the Galaxy the 3rd best comic book film of the last 5 years?
It's essentially the biggest risk Marvel had before was Captain America, the first Avenger, because you got to globally produce an American, a guy who's essentially wearing a flag on his chest. That is a 10th of the risk Guardians of the Galaxy was, with characters, one, nobody knew of, now are household names. Go around and see if you can't find Groot anywhere or Rocket Raccoon anywhere. And on top of the fact that now everybody embraced it, it's because they embraced it because, one, we were starving for a fun space opera. Two, it's just different in any way than any other comic movie you had seen. And it's genuinely funny. It's like you're laughing, and you're like, wow. In the first 5 minutes, you think, okay, after a while, I'm going to get tired of Star-Lord. No. And the fact that there's this very clever things done. We talked about Drax earlier. I mean, you take an actor's weakness and you make it a strength, because Batista's not a super big actor, like technique-wise, but you make his stiltedness, his personality of his character, there's nothing he can be bad at acting now, because it's just, that's just Drax. It's just brilliant stuff that James Gunn did. It's fun. I had fun watching this movie. I didn't want to cut my wrist, Christopher Nolan, after watching it. It was just fun. And I kind of was on the fence about Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon, and he probably is my favorite Guardian at the end of it. So, I mean, the scene when he's drunk and he's just talking about it, I didn't want us to be tearing apart and ripped together. Let's see if you're smiling with that whole thing. I'm like, not crying, but I'm just like, wow, this freaking digital creature is bringing emotions to me. Why stop this? Stop it, James Gunn. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, I just had fun. I had a good time, and from the trailer to when I saw it, it just went up my anticipation, and it just paid off everything they told me it was going to be. Uga Chaka.
Yeah. The two thoughts. So when I'm thinking Guardians of the Galaxy, number one, Batista did not suck, which surprised me. And you didn't mention it, DJ, so I will. But that soundtrack wasn't too shabby.
The soundtrack is, come on.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you described it perfectly. If you're going to sum up Guardians of the Galaxy in one word, it has to be fun. There's so much to like, and like you said, this is something that you go in, most of us. Obviously, some people go in with a lot more knowledge, probably more knowledgeable about the comic, etc. But, for the everyday fan or the everyday moviegoer, you go in not knowing anything about these characters. And like you said, it was a huge risk, and nobody had this as their most anticipated film of last year, I don't think. Definitely nobody had it as one of the top 5 biggest box office hits of the year. American Sniper came in.
I think now.
Yeah, top 3 after American Sniper took it out. But yeah, so I mean, it wasn't something that people went into with high expectations. I think that helps, when you go in something just not, you're just kind of like, let's just go in this, have some fun, open-minded, and it worked on a lot of different levels. Dan, I know you have a couple issues with it, so what do you think, in your opinion, makes it so it shouldn't maybe be quite as high as we have it here at number 3?
I guess my only issue is I feel like the narrative itself is a little weak, and I thought Ronan, as a villain, was forgettable, and I really liked that character, so I was just kind of disappointed that he was just and I think part of that too was that Marvel made James Gunn incorporate Thanos, and I think that I don't know if he necessarily needed to as much in the way they did it, but what I find you mentioned like a good word to describe Guardians of the Galaxy is fun. I think that's really true. But I think another word, too, is unique. And not, everything about it unique. Character, design, and the world, that's how colorful it is. It's just so, using, the nebula to really reflect just how everything looks. It's not dark and dreary. It's just everything's bright. And, two, it's it's unique in what's good about it. It's when you think about people talking about the movie, they're not talking about the action sequences. They're talking about just the interactions with the characters. That's, it's the dialogue. It's you can seriously just sit those characters in a room and have them discuss and talk to one another, and that's a highlight. You don't even the action's almost secondary, which is great to see in a comic book movie. So, I do have my issues with it, but again, it was number 6 on my list. So it's not I just felt like the movies that I put ahead of it were just more complete. But like I said, fun. There's not another comic book movie out there that's more fun than Guardians. I will agree with that.
The only thing I'd say about the Thanos thing is that if they did that movie with the 2 daughters of Thanos and Thanos wasn't there, then that'd be something like, why are you hiding Thanos?
That's true. That's
true. The only thing because I can understand he kind of is shoehorned in the middle of it. But right. I mean, if you did that movie and you just said them by name, it's almost like it's like the Khan thing in Star Trek. It's like, why are you hiding Thanos? Why are you hiding Khan?
Yeah.
We know he's Khan. Just say he's Khan. Show us Thanos. We know these are the daughters of Thanos. You got to put him in there somewhere. I shrug at it either way. If he was in there, I would shrug. If he wasn't in there, I would shrug. So
this incorporation isn't a make or break for me. I think it's fine. My issue is more so that Ronan, like, it was just if he came just like a kind of like a one note character, and I wish he was a little bit more complex than just the dude who likes to destroy stuff. So.
I get that too, and he looked so epic and cool looking, and he had the potential to be a much cooler character than he ended up being. It was almost like that same type of feeling with Boba Fett, like, oh no, I wanted to see more of him. Why is he dying? So, why is it just a one note character type thing, like you're saying? So I get that.
Why did this not win Best Makeup? Nebula's makeup to me is like the best makeup. I mean, Ronan looks awesome. Nebula that makeup is crazy good, and it didn't win an Academy Award. I was stunned by that.
All right, so there's only 2 spots left in our Decade So Far list. And number 2 is going to Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Dan, you had it right. You had it at number 2. So why is Captain America, The Winter Soldier one of the best comic book films of the last 5 years?
I think because it's just a complete movie. I think the narrative is so strong compared to a lot of Marvel films, and I love how it feels like a classic, like 70s thriller in that way. It incorporates all these different characters in an effective manner. It has a good villain with Winter Soldier. The action it's varied and it's always really well done from beginning the boat rescue sequence to this, the fight with Winter Soldier and Captain America. Like, every time Winter Soldier and Captain America were fighting, I just wanted more of it. Like, I didn't want it to end. And they made Captain America a badass. They really showed why he was such a great fighter. Like the elevator sequence too. There's so many just great moments in that, but I think also the story is really complete and kind of how it incorporates Hydra. There's not many times within Marvel films I was like surprised where the plot ended up going, and that was one where I'm like, oh, even though it's based upon comics, I did not expect it to go there, and I liked how I loved how it actually went there, especially with Zola, which was a great reveal, and I don't know, I think it really changed everything about Marvel films in a good way.
And I said you had it at number 2, but that's also where DJ had it, so you both got it right. So DJ, why are we getting it so right here with Captain America being number 2?
I don't think we have enough time in the show for me to gush over this movie properly. I love Captain America. I saw it the day it opened, and after I finished watching it, I was like, nah, I gotta watch that again. I sat in the theater and I watched it again. I was like, I gotta watch it again. Winter Soldier, a lot of people go, oh, he doesn't say anything. He's one note. Have you guys seen Terminator? Because Winter Soldier is the closest thing you're going to get to a T-1000. That every action sequence he has with Captain America it's epic. And it's one of the most brutal Marvel films, action-wise, I've ever seen. But that's just the action stuff. And Dan is right. This movie essentially changed Marvel. I mean, it just, wherever direction you thought Marvel was heading, it just flipped the script and just said to everybody who's a Marvel fan or just watches it casually that, hey, well, we're willing to do anything. We'll just change anything. We'll make this movie a spy thriller. We'll make Guardians a comedy. We can do anything at this point. This anything now is making Ant-Man, but whatever. They essentially said they have the balls to do whatever. And this movie is just... I hear people complain about. I work with people who really don't like this movie because they're down on comic book movies, and I listen to their complaints. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This movie's so solid, and you have a male and female character not have a relationship that's not cliched. That's actually different. The Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans chemistry, one, because they've known each other for years. Two, it's not romantic, which I really was happy about because it's just. She's just his friend, and they kind of change each other as the movie goes. You're not supposed to be getting that out of a dumb comic book movie, but you get it, and it's just a solid, from beginning to end movie. So yeah, I love Winter Soldier. I
agree with that, and also one thing that you guys didn't mention, but Anthony Mackie.
Oh, Mackie, come on. Mackie just needs to get more work, guys. Give Mackie more work.
Yeah, that was a great part of the movie as well. And I think something that was interesting, looking at everybody's top 10 list from last year, how many people at least put one of the films we've talked about in there? Whether it was Guardians, whether it was Days of Future Past, or whether it was Winter Soldier. There was a lot of people out there, and I'm not just talking about in the geek world, but a lot of people out there in their top 10, top 20 list of the year put at least one of those films in there. So it was a great year for comic book films for sure in 2014. Probably one of the best in recent times. So that is our number 2. There's probably no question from anybody what our number 1 is. It's number 1 on my list. It's number 1 on DJ's list. It's number 1 on our overall list. That is, of course, The Avengers, coming in at our best comic book film of the last 5 years. Dan, you're the only one that didn't have it at number 1. You've obviously already explained your reasons for liking First Class and Winter Soldier a little bit more. But what do you think about Avengers coming in at number 1?
Yeah, it's deserved for sure. I mean, it is the movie that we were all waiting for. I don't think there's ever been a movie that was that hyped. You're talking about, 4 years of build-up, and the fact that it actually paid off, I mean, that's incredible. And we talked about Guardians. It's a lot of fun, and I would probably say Guardians is probably a little bit more fun than Avengers, but Avengers is just, it gives you that feel of, oh, this is actually what a comic book movie feels like to come alive, and in that epic sense. It's such an accomplishment, and in the fact that they were able to just have that happen. I think that is the biggest success of Avengers, that it actually happened, and it set the tone for Marvel to come, and it's just endlessly rewatchable. So many not small great moments, but those great moment, especially with the Hulk and how he stole the show and all those little bits I did not expect that just made it just a little bit more special. So
it was definitely a fun experience for sure. I don't feel too much of a need to sing its praises too much or to go into it in too much detail. I believe everybody's heard it already. But DJ, would you like to add anything with the Avengers?
Avengers is essentially is the foundation of a genre. If you got to think about that, why are there so many comic book movies? Why is there a Transformers universe now? Why is there a Ghostbusters universe? Why is there a Hollywood Universal Monsters universe? Why is there all these crossovers and stuff? Avengers is why. Avengers essentially broke the internet, as I like to call it, where everybody saw that and was like, we got to do that. I guess we got to do that now. And
that essentially worked really well.
essentially made comic book movies a legitimate genre. At the time, it was kind of like, oh, that's a comic book movie, yeah. But now that's what's business. It's the third highest grossing movie of all time, and on top of the fact, it's
until this year.
Yeah, until this year. Until the sequel. And somebody from a galaxy far, far away. But yeah, it essentially had all that pressure, had all that stuff, and it happened, and it was everything we wanted it to be. It gave us every bit of fan service if you're a comic book fan, if you're a comic book geek, and it was good. There's no way, when I first watched Iron Man, I thought that Iron Man could ever share a scene with Thor. And by the time that happened in Avengers, I was like, wow, I believe this. I feel it. It's great. And it's working. And Avengers, I mean, we're talking about how Captain America changed things forever. Avengers essentially is the bedrock of the comic book genre right now.
And I let's not forget exactly the time and place that we were at when Avengers came out, because this was somewhat of a risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This was something that nobody was convinced that it was going to work necessarily. We were all excited for it, but this so could have been them, falling all over themselves and doing all kinds of stuff wrong, and it did not have to be the success it was. People were somewhat skeptical going into this on how they were going to pull it off, especially with all these guys sharing screen time.
He scrapped George Miller's Justice League movie to see what this movie did. George Miller was supposed to do Justice League. He had the cast. He flew him out there. They canceled the movie to see what Avengers did. And Avengers did good, and then they just redid the whole thing.
So that is our top 10. I'll read them to you real quick one more time. We had Captain America, The First Avenger, Dread, Kick-Ass, Dark Knight Rises, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and The Avengers. And DJ, it's not just because you're the guest, but I guess you win because all 10 of your films made our top 10. So maybe don't have as many honorable mentions as Dan and I do.
I win! I don't know what I win.
But anything that just missed your list?
this one doesn't fit on this list at all because these are like superhero movies. But there's a comic book movie called Blue is the Warmest Color. I don't know if anybody. It's kind of a foreign film.
Yeah.
Based on a comic book that I really, really liked, and I was like, well, man, I didn't know how the list was going to work out. I thought we'd have some kind of other kind of fringy foreign ones thrown in there, but these are all like Marvel, DC stuff. But yeah, Blue is the Warmest Color was like one of those movies that people don't even realize it is based on the comic book. Two, it's foreign, so not a lot of people saw it, but I think it was really well done. It kind of gets a bad rap for being overly sexualized and it's for pretty intense sex scenes in there, but it's just a really, really good movie. Go see it. Don't take your parents because it's again some nudity in there. But yeah, it's really, really good, and it's based on I think it's based on a French comic book. I'm not certain. It might be even a manga. I'm not 100% certain, but I know it's based on a comic book.
All right. Dan, there's a couple that didn't make the list that were on your list, or any other ones that you were considering that you'd like to bring up?
Oh, the only ones that were on my list that didn't were Snowpiercer, that also based upon a French comic book. That was number 7 for me, came out last year. And I guess it's like that's another one that like some people may not even realize is based upon a comic. And also, I guess it's not necessarily based upon a comic, but very much a comic book influenced movie, somewhat similar to Kick-Ass, and that's Super by James Gunn that I had on my list. Like kind of a cheat, but I think it's a good. It's like Kick-Ass if Kick-Ass was a little bit more deranged, I guess.
Super meta.
Yeah, exactly. So I do like Super a good deal. It's an odd movie, but it's a good. I do think it's enjoyable. So it's, but I guess it technically may not qualify since it's not actually based upon a comic book movie or a comic book. I should say.
Ellen Page and Kevin Bacon are really good in it.
Yeah. Yeah, even and Nathan Fillion has a pretty fun cameo as well. It's like, but yeah, that's pretty much that's one of the ones I didn't honestly even realize Blue is the Warmest Color was based upon a comic book. So
yeah, it's a French graphic novel.
So.
All right. To be fair, I listed Snowpiercer when we talked about our science fiction and fantasy films. So I guess if Dan and I would have been more in sync with that, it probably would have been on the list because I would have ranked it had I not ranked it in the previous list. So my bad on that. But the only other ones that I had that didn't quite make it, and I know I'm probably one of the only ones, but I'm a sucker for the more sci-fi / fantasy comic book films, and for me, Thor: The Dark World is kind of that. And Loki.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's the best villain we've gotten in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think.
Easily.
So I had to give Thor a mention, and I also had Iron Man 3 at my number 10 spot. I know a lot of people hate that film, but I had it at number 10, and Dan, you had it at number 12. So don't leave me here.
Oh no, I do like Iron Man 3 a lot. I know it gets a lot of crap, but I do like Iron Man 3, and I do like Thor: The Dark World. I didn't include it. I like them, but I guess I didn't consider it for the list. But right. I actually really love the character of Thor, and I think Dark World was a good representation of that character.
It's the villain. It's the Ronin thing again, because I mean the villain of Thor: Dark World is, and you got Eccleston, and they barely used him, which was very disappointing to me.
That's very true.
So that is our list. You can let us know what you agree or disagree with at the website page there, and we will react to which ones you think we had ranked too high, which ones we left off, which ones we had that we shouldn't have had, and all that fun stuff. As a quick kind of look ahead, because you know what they do at these Marvel and DC places, they plan movies for 10 years into the future. So if we're looking at the second half of the decade, just real quick, if you have any thoughts going around the proverbial table here, which films coming out in the next 5 years to end the decade could take some of the spots away from the films we just mentioned? Which ones, DJ, do you think would have a shot making the top 10 if we do this list 5 years from now?
Definitely Civil War, definitely Avengers. If done right, I mean, Civil War and Avengers could be done horribly wrong. We don't know yet. The Russos, I mean, very good for coming out the gates. When does Black Panther come out? That movie to me, I think, is going to be very.
I think it's
very
after. It's after Infinity War 2. I think. I don't even know.
Yeah, these dates are all thrown together. I think that movie is really important. That and Doctor Strange, I think, are really important because if done right, again, that's another movie that's completely. Those are two movies that will be completely different than everything else we have, even on this list. I mean, you got mysticism with Doctor Strange, and you got one of the first black superheroes as the lead. So yeah, I think those two movies could, if done correctly, now take those spots. Take at least 10, at least.
What about you, Dan? Anything that you have on your radar on that could possibly be a front runner for one of these spots in 5 years?
For me, the front runner right now is Civil War. I think just based upon what Russo did with Captain America, and I considering what that could mean. I mean, obviously Avengers. I mean, Infinity War, that has potential. Considering that might be when everything comes together. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'm just naming all the Marvel movies.
Nobody's.
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
I was going to say, I do think it could work. I mean, that tone can make more sense. I don't know. I know I was not a huge fan of Man of Steel. I didn't hate it, but I don't know. I think maybe they can right the ship with Batman v Superman. I also think if Deadpool actually fits the character, it could be amazing. It could be really fun. So I think that has potential. I don't know if any like smaller ones that are coming out that have the like another Snowpiercer or something like that.
Suicide Squad. God, I forgot about Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
That's also another one that could sneak up out of nowhere if done.
No one wants to throw Ant-Man out there.
No.
I mean, I know I'm probably one of the guys that on the Twitter sphere that give Man of Steel a lot of crap. And I do, because I don't like that movie at all. But there is one thing I do like about Man of Steel, and though he had nothing really to do in the movie, Henry Cavill is a really good Superman. So that's what I got my fingers crossed that now David Goyer is kind of like to the side a little bit more. This Batman v Superman could, I think you give Cavill some good Superman material, genuine Superman material, he can knock it out of the park. Because the times in the movie where he's Superman, where he's talking to the general about the thing and the planet. I was like, man, that's freaking Superman. I feel it. So yeah, Man of Steel is not good, but Henry Cavill could make Batman v Superman really, really good if done correctly. Zack Snyder.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see what happens these next 5 years. So when we revisit this, or if you're looking, as the decade ends up, what we're going to have our rankings at. Last thing for comic book movies before we wrap that part up. And just real quick, because we don't have time to get into a big in-depth discussion, but want your opinions on this briefly. DJ, have comic book movies done more harm to Hollywood than good? And has this trickle thing that's happened recently where studios are trying to create franchise after franchise, have they done more harm than good in the whole movie sphere?
I'll say they've not done more harm than good. I think I like making new genres. I think a superhero, for as bad as some of the superhero movies are now, just remember how bad they were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I say they've done less harm than good. The good superhero movies are excellent. I mean, when you get a Guardians and an Avengers and a Captain America and the X-Men Days of Future Past, I think they've done more good than harm.
What about you, Dan?
I would say so too, because I think one thing I think is like, okay, if you take out the comic book movies, what are the other franchises that are being made right now? And like, Transformers or, so I would say like if that's the other answer, I'd say they've done more good because imagine, what they were trying to make besides comic book movies. I think that's, yeah, exactly. So I think there's certainly oversaturation, but I think what we're seeing now is that comic book movies, they've been taking comic book movies as the overall genre, but taking that and then making subgenres out of it. Like, Captain America: Winter Soldier has more in common with not Civil War thrillers, but like Cold War thrillers, and Guardians of the Galaxy is very much a space opera. So I think what we're seeing is the evolution of the comic book movie, where it's just an avenue to get a different genre film that's outside of the norm. So I think that's a good sign for the future. My only worry is like what happens after Avengers: Infinity War.
Spider-Man.
Maybe, yeah. I just wonder, like, once these characters, like, once RDJ is done with Iron Man, once Chris Evans is done with Captain America, can like you keep it going? Maybe you can. I mean, but I think it's gonna be a challenge, I would assume.
Then we'll finally get the right versions of Turtles and Transformers and stuff like that.
Over Michael Bay's dead body.
Right. But I'm gonna agree with you guys and make it unanimous. I think they're doing more good than harm. The argument would probably be made that there is some oversaturation, but I don't think we're missing out on. The independent movies are still being made. The smaller movies are still being made. They're still being seen. Maybe it's just because we kind of interact with a bunch of cinephiles, but we're still being exposed to that stuff, and they're not being squeezed out. I don't think there's anything wrong with us having those, and then also having good comic book films that can entertain us way more than the other crap we're getting from blockbusters, whether it's the YA brand movies or whether it's, like we've mentioned 1,000 times, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Godzilla, some of this other crap that they've been putting out. I'd rather be able to watch my smaller budget indie films and then occasionally go and see a blockbuster that actually doesn't disappoint me, and so far that's what a lot of the comic book movies have been doing. So
yeah, or another live action Disney movie. So just
there we go. That's the alternative.
Dumbo!
That's what's going to happen.
Dumbo.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our discussion on the comic book films. Real quick, to just take a quick look ahead to what you can look forward to this weekend. Like we talked about, the movies coming out in theater this week. The biggest one would be Furious 7, which of course is being accompanied by, do I give it another mention? Superfast.
What the hell?
Some other films coming out, whether it be to the theaters or on demand or different things. We have Effie Gray, Boy Choir, 5 to 7, and then of course Clive Owen and Morgan Freeman in Last Nights.
Good luck to them.
All right.
Is that Nights with a K too? Is that Nights with a K?
It is.
Awesome. Yeah, that's how you know it's good.
Last Nights. Yeah. Morgan Freeman doing one of those films again. He likes that genre. And then of course, going into next Tuesday, some things that you can look for as far as Blu-ray releases. Not a ton. The Immigrant, finally, A Most Violent Year. So for the half of the world that couldn't see that in theaters or any other way, it's apparently coming out on DVD and Blu-ray on Tuesday. So you can see A Most Violent Year. I will actually be looking forward to that because it's been a film that I've wanted to see for about 5 months.
The title does not...
right, I've heard that.
Going on there.
So other than that, some Blu-ray releases for Empire Records, For the Boys, Detroit Rock City, and After the Sunset. So I guess that's what's coming out for that. As far as questions for next week for you listeners, we'd love you to go to the website and let us know what you think number one should be for comic book movies of the last 5 years. So tell us what your number one pick would be, and if it differs from our pick of Avengers or any other, like I said, problems or things you liked or didn't like about our list. Last piece of business that we have to get out of the way, since we didn't do it yet. Dan and I always like to assign each other homework for films to watch for next week. So, Dan, what do you got for me for next week?
I am going to be assigning you more of an action film. I kind of gave you animation so far, crime, drama, and this is going to be an action film, a foreign action film, actually kind of crime as well, but it's an interesting movie, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say. It is foreign, so you do have to read, so I do apologize. It is serious homework, and that's Headhunters, and it's currently streaming on Netflix, but it gets a lot of comparisons to Tarantino on occasion. I don't know if I completely get those, but I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. I don't know if it's complete action, but it's a strange film. It starts as one thing and ends as something completely different.
Excellent. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and unlike some other people, I'm not opposed to reading. So education, goes along with the homework piece, so I'm all about that. And I am taking another chance this week because I did get some updated information on movies you've seen and movies you haven't seen, but I honestly have not had a chance to review it yet, so I'm taking another chance, and I'm probably going to act like a fool here and name a bunch of movies you've already seen. But I'm going to start with one from last year. I know it's current, but I have some other older picks that I'm saving for a little bit later. So my pick from last year, unless you've seen it, I'm interested in your take on Magic in the Moonlight.
I have not seen Magic in the Moonlight.
I've seen that.
All right. So Magic in the Moonlight, I haven't given my thoughts on air about that movie at all, so I would like you to see it so we can kind of talk about that one a little bit together and see what side of the fence you land on that one. So those are the homework assignments for next week. So before we close out the show, DJ, I didn't give you a chance to do it at the beginning, but how can people listen to more of you? How can people find you on the internet and on Podcast City?
Get Liam Neeson. I'm at simplisticreviews.net, www.simplisticreviews.net. We're at Facebook /simplisticreviews, and I'm on Twitter at trying to be DJV, but the show's Twitter account's at Simple Tweeters, and you can hear me say more irreverent stuff about how Christopher Nolan does not know how to write women.
You can also hear DJ every once in a while on some bonus content for In-Session Films, and you'll also be able to hear him probably a couple more times throughout the year with us as we revisit our Fantasy Film League and do updates on that. I'm sure he'll be on some of those episodes as well, so we can see who's doing well and who's not.
I'm winning!
So you'll hear more of him throughout the year, but you should definitely check out Simplistic Reviews. It's a great show. All right, so thanks as always for joining us here on Weekend at the Movies. Obviously, the best way to keep in contact with us is to go to geekcastradio.com and find the episode post and comment there, and Dan and I will interact with you there. You can also visit the Facebook page by searching Geekcast Radio Network, where Mike will keep you up to date with all the different Geekcast Radio things that are happening. The Twitter there is at Geekcast Radio. Mine is at Optimus Solo. And Dan, what is your Twitter?
At Movie Revolt.
All right, so that's it for this week, and we will see you next weekend for another episode of Weekend at the Movies. All right. Everybody good?
Yeah. We should ask DJ or DJ. Jesus, I'm doing what Matt
JD
yeah.
or DayG.
I've been everything.
Yeah, Digis.